Hey, what's going on, guys? So I wanted to showcase this bunny build that I put together. I know a lot of people have been asking about different bunny builds. I do have an ultimate bunny build that I can showcase at some point, but I wanted to put something together that was a little bit more free-to-play friendly, a little more early game friendly, that's a lot more accessible to just more people. So this is the build that I was using for the hard mode solo Devour Kill you guys saw in that little short clip that I put in front of the video here. I'm just going to go over the two setups that I have, the one for bossing, the one for farming, talk about the guns that I'm using, the reactor, and the external components. I'll have it all time stamped down in the bottom, so if you need to skip to a specific section or you just want to, if you're just curious about a specific thing on the build, you can hop right to that. So I'll just get into it right here. Just for notes on this at the start here, we're at 26,000 defense and we're sitting at about 11,000 HP, and this is going to be on the bossing setup that I have for Bunny. With all these builds, you obviously you can see I have an energy activator slotted into her. However, I did not. I pretended like I didn't have that, and I just capped all the builds out at 60 as the module capacity, because that is the most that you can get if you don't have an activator slotted in the character. So that's kind of how I built all these, is just with that 60 capacity as the general rule. The other thing is I don't have any of these catalysts right here slotted in Bunny. She just has the two that she comes with. If you do happen to get a catalyst, I would highly recommend that you put this C1 on here, and the reason being is because it's going to decrease the cost of the HP mod right here. And this is probably the most prevalent mod that's on 95% of the builds out there. So for this one, we're using increased HP. We're using HP amplification. It does reduce our shields, but honestly, we don't care about shields because shields kind of suck in this game. Hopefully they'll fix it at some point, but as of right now, just building an HP and defense are the way to go for survivability. Got focus on electric here. You have a couple options with this if you don't want to use this one. You could use electric master. You could also use electric specialist. This one is a little more important for the farming setup because of the increased skill cooldown, and I'll go over that when we get there. Technician, this is a pretty standard mod. The reason we use this is because it actually buffs all four of Bunny's abilities as opposed to just two of them. The other reason is too is that just because of the module capacity we have over here at 60, we're using this one because it only costs us 8 because it matches the slot that this one's in. Increased defense, another staple that's on most builds. These two are probably the most common things you're going to see on builds. And with the bossing setup, we're actually using the shock punch. We're not using the mid-air maneuvering because honestly, at least on controller, it makes it a pain to grapple onto the bosses. 9 times out of 10, I'm just grappling up into his grill. So, and then I get stomped out of it. So if you happen to have long distance maneuvering, this is actually a really good mod for bossing because it allows you a lot more distance to grapple onto his weak point. So it just makes it a little bit safer rather than being right up next to him. If you don't have any of those, just throw on one of the blue ones. Doesn't matter which one. That's pretty much it for the bossing build here. Like I said, we're at about 26,000 defense, 11,000 HP. For the farming setup, change just a few things. We are still going to run the increased HP. Again, this is going to be on every single build. We're running Nimble Fingers for the 25% skill cooldown, and then the reason that we're running this focus on electric is because it also gives us skill cooldown. So that way, if you happen to have a reactor that doesn't have any kind of cooldown reduction on it or duration on it, this will allow your emission ability, which is her Bunny's 3, the big AoE circle, it'll bring its cooldown to 20.5 seconds. And if you don't have any additional duration or anything, then the duration will be at exactly 20 seconds. So you'll only have a half a second delay in between activating and reactivating it. With this, the reactor I have on here, it's got a little more duration, so I have a 22-second duration, which means that we can keep this up 100% of the time. The reason being is because when you're on Bunny, you don't really use your gun when you're farming. You're mostly just mobbing around with this skill right here, and with her running around with her too, obviously. Same thing here. We're running Technician as well too, just another standard mod. We're running Skill Expansion for the increased effect range. That's going to make that big AoE even bigger. You can only get about 40% on here, again, just because the module capacity is capped at 60 for the build. I like to run Spear and Shield, a little more skill power, a little bit of defense. If you want, you can swap this out for maximize range, which is going to give you about 24% more skill range at a negative 5% skill power modifier. So that's another option too, or you could just bump up skill expansion a little bit more. Totally up to you on however you want to do that. On the mobbing setup, we're a little bit lower on the defense and HP, 15,000 for the defense, 7,000 for the HP. I feel like this is more than enough for pretty much anything. I've ran this in multiple missions, and I don't really have an issue with it. I think my ultimate bunny setup is around 20k when I'm running around and mobbing on it. For the guns that we're using, the gun that I was using in the Devour Kill is the Tamer. And this is how I set it up. There's kind of two ways you can build the Tamer. You can either build it for crit damage, or you can build it for weak point damage. Personally, I like to build it for weak point damage. Now, as a side note, I do have an activator in this, as well as I have one catalyst in the main slot right here, the first slot. So if you happen to not have those, then what I would recommend for mods is number one, running the action and reaction. This is going to be a staple on pretty much every single gun you see. It gives you 61% firearm attack, which just increases the damage of the gun. The recoils increase is not really noticeable. It's fine on controller. It's probably even better on a mouse and keyboard. Rifling reinforcement, extra 32% attack, kind of a no-brainer as well too. And then the third one's going to be the fire rate increase at 25%. Those are the three mods that I would run on guns if you do not have an activator in them. It's going to put you at about, I think it's 44 out of 48 for module capacity at that. If you do have an activator, then you can also slot this for weak point damage. We're going to be at 35% with weak point sight, and an additional 20% with weak point insight. Then this mod right here, mental focus, is a massive DPS boost for guns that have a large magazine capacity. And the Tamer's obviously got a 100 round magazine capacity. Eventually I'll expand this and expand the rounds per magazine in here and get closer to that 150% or 150 rounds in the magazine. But I just don't have the capacity for it right now. But this is huge. It gives you more attack damage for every bullet basically that you hit on the boss. So, or hit on whatever target you're shooting at. Caps it at 150 stacks, but stays active unless you reload or change the gun. So that's how I would set up the Tamer. Again, you can't set it up for crit damage. This DPS number right here is going to look lower because weak point insight and weak point damage in general doesn't show up in this DPS number for some reason. So if we go over here and look at the crit damage one, it says we're doing 445,000. It's not really accurate because honestly the Tamer has an absolutely horrible crit rate. That's why I don't recommend building it for crit rate. So I would personally just build it for weak point damage. Even though this number says it's lower, it's really not. It's doing a lot more damage because this is almost 55% extra damage to the weak points. So that's how I'd build the Tamer. You could also use the Thunder Cage. The reason I didn't use it in the video is because my Thunder Cage is at like 540,000 DPS. It's kind of juiced up, and I just feel like a lot of people aren't going to have a gun that's this leveled up yet. But if you do, then throw this on. It's even better, in my opinion. One of the best guns in the game. If you don't have the Tamer or the Thunder Cage, this is another great option too, is Eternal Willpower. Those are kind of the three top guns I would say currently for DPS in the game. Hand cannons are good too if you can hit your shots as well. I'm just running the Nazitra's Devotion for the hand cannon weapon class equipped condition on my reactor right here. So for the reactor, I would probably just recommend that you run a purple reactor, one of these rare ones, as opposed to one of these the high-end ultimate ones. The reason being is because these purple ones only require that you have the gun equipped in whatever, in any slot, whereas these ultimate ones require that you actually have the gun out. So what that means is that if you are switched onto a different gun, like if you happen to have a different gun out, then instead of doing this increased damage, you'll actually end up doing this reduced amount. And as you can see here, that reduced amount is pretty significant. This is because, as you can see, the optimization condition is Thunder Cage, which we, of course, don't have out. So it drops our 1 and our 4 abilities by almost 8,000 skill power, and our 2 and our 3 ability by almost 3,000 skill power. So if you happen to get one of these really good ones, like the one that's got Thunder Cage on it, that has the electric skill power and the crit hit rate, and it's electric and singular, I would run that because you can just keep your Thunder Cage out the entire time. When you're playing bunny for like mobbing, you don't really use your gun that much. You're mostly just using your skills. So if you happen to get one of these, great. You can just run this. It's going to be a huge DPS increase on your skills. Otherwise, just run one of these purple ones. Electric Infusion is not really what you want. You really want one of these Electric and Singular right here because it's more. It buffs up that 3 ability, that AoE ability a lot more. I just was using this one because it's kind of a general purpose. It's got singular skill power boost in the for the substat, and it's got the fusion and the electric, so it kind of covers all the bases. Um, Next, external components. This is again, like I said, where I feel like most people's builds are kind of falling apart, or maybe they're just not building them right. As you can see, again, we have that 26,000 defense and the 11,000 HP. If you actually go in here and you take all these off, you can see that we drop all the way down to 3,000 defense and 3,000 HP. And that's because these mods right here, the increased HP, the increased defense, and the HP amplification, they are buffing the base stats of the characters, the base defense and the base HP. And what these are doing is adding to that base HP. So for this main slot right here, the one that I would recommend running is a double HP auxiliary power. And as you can see, if we do that, we put this one double HP in here that gives us about 1,100 more HP. Our HP jumps from 3,000 to 8,600, and that's just again because the modules are multiplying these numbers right here. So this is probably one of the most important ones you can get is a double HP roll on this. This is the only slot that can roll HP in that substat. Substat's that yellow number that you see on the screen. The other one that can double roll an attribute is the memory units here, which can roll defense and defense. As you can see, we got defense, and then the other defense is that yellow number. If you happen to get one of these better ones, the higher end ones are obviously going to give you more defense. So like this one's almost double on the main stat. But for the purpose of the video, I was just using these ones just to kind of keep it more in line with what people might have at this point. So if we do that and we slot that double defense on there, as you can see, our defense jumps all the way from 3K all the way up to 16,000. So now we're at 16,000 and 8,000 HP. A lot better for survivability. For these last two slots, the memory slot and the processor slot, it's going to kind of be up to you what you want to run here. Again, I wouldn't make sure you don't have shields as the main stat in any of these because shields kind of suck in this game. So you can either run an HP for one slot and a defense for the other, or you can run a double defense. So me personally, I run an HP in the sensor slot, and then in the other slot, I will run a defense one, and that's going to put me at that 26,000 with the 11,000 HP. You can drop this HP out of the sensor here, and you can go with a defense-based one, which is going to give you about 8,000 with 31,000 defense, which is fine on the bossing version of this build. However, if we switch to the farming one, it drops us all the way to 5K for HP and 17,000 defense. Personally, 5K feels a little squishy to me, which is, again, why I choose to run an HP mod in that section right there. And this is a little bit better. We're about 15,000 defense with about 7,700 HP, which in my opinion is more than enough to survive pretty much all the content in the end game here when you're going around just farming stuff. So those are my recommendations for the mods right here. Obviously, if you get ultimate versions of the memory and the auxiliary power, they're going to be much better, so it's just going to increase the build. Some of these other ones too, like a really good setup here on Bunny, is you can throw on these supernova ones. Like I have this double defense supernova with the this defense one right here, which gives me an extra 8.6 electric skill power. But again, I just wanted to kind of keep it as free-to-play friendly as I could. So those are the mods that I would run, or the external components that I would run on the build. That's the reactor, really kind of up to you. whatever you want to run there, as long as you're getting the skill power bonus. So if you guys have any questions on the build, or what to put on your own build, or if you guys want to see another Descendant, just feel free to drop a comment down below. I'm working on lepic, enzo. I just got Sharen, so I'm gonna do something with her. And obviously I still have my ultimate bunny that if you guys want to see a video for that at some point, I can put that out as well too. So if you have any other questions, like I said, just drop a comment. Appreciate you guys watching. Thanks. Have a good day.